1140.
On Sactown Sports.
I've said it once, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Malik Monk is my favorite player on the Sacramento Kings. Coming out here last year to cover the team, to do the show, it really probably should have been De'Aaron Fox. Left-handed, kind of reminds me of not how I played, obviously, as I was done after freshman year of high school, but
I'm a pizza guy.
How I thought I would play in my mind. But it was Malik Monk. My wife, when we watch the games, she says, is he the best player on the team? That's what she would say when she sees the highlights from Malik Monk. But Malik Monk hasn't been the same this season. And there are a couple reasons for that. Obviously, Mike Brown gets moved. There were rumors that maybe Malik wasn't as high on Mike Brown as some other players in the locker room. That leads to De'Aaron Fox moving and an opportunity for Malik Monk. Before Mike Brown even left, there was an opportunity. Malik moves into the starting lineup. Domantas Sabonis, it's about time. Didn't lead to wins, though. Malik Monk was playing pretty darn well as a starting two-guard. A lot of that changed when De'Aaron Fox got moved. We know how everything was connected. Don't necessarily need to get back into that. But Malik Monk goes from being the two-guard off the bench, doing some point guard play, to now being the number one point guard in one of the toughest Western conferences that we've seen in the last couple decades here. And it's been tough. Malik Monk is a guy who I would not call him injury prone, but he's one of those guys a little dinged up prone. He's going to miss a game here or there. There's going to be a toe thing or a thumb thing. This season, he also fell to some illness. So his availability at times didn't end last season. Not his fault, of course, but this is the reality. You bring in a guy like Zach LaVine who needs a pure point guard. Malik Monk at times needs a pure point guard. DeMar DeRozan at times needs a pure point guard. So Malik get asked to do a lot of different things. And I think that it may have affected his value across the league. And not only has it affected the value, when we hear from Sam Amick about Domantas Sabonis wants to have a conversation, and DeMar DeRozan wants to have a conversation, what about Malik Monk? Malik Monk, who's back on the bench now. Forgot that part. He's back on the bench now. So he's been yo-yoed back and forth from a bench player, six-man, supposed to be six-man of the year, got injured. Should have still won, I think, but got injured. Then he gets into the starting lineup, doesn't really have to do too many point guard duties, kind of splits it with De'Aaron Fox. Then De'Aaron Fox leaves. He slides slides into the point guard position. Now he's back starting on the bench. That's where he's not starting. He's starting on the bench. So, number one, the question is, how happy are you with all of this movement if you're Malik Monk? And again, there were reports that maybe that initial movement of Mike Brown, Malik possibly wasn't the biggest fan, allegedly. Then you have the De'Aaron Fox move, who maybe Malik thought it was an opportunity. You know, we say it all the time. If you're a second baseman or a third baseman and you get a chance to play shortstop, you're not going to say no. In your heart of hearts, are you comfortable? Maybe not, but you feel like you can get there. If you've been a corner outfielder your whole life, everybody wants to play center. You get a chance to play center, you're not going to say no. In your heart of hearts, are you a bit of a better hitter where you can focus on your defense less? Just sit there in right field, sit there in left field, sit there at second base, just turn a double play every once in a while. Shortstop, you got to command the infield. Your hitting suffers. And what we've seen is that Malik's quote-unquote hitting, his shooting has suffered. His offense has suffered. But this is kind of what Malik wanted. So I struggle to figure out if Malik is happy with the outcome that maybe he was connected to a little bit, or if he might be somebody that's interested. I think it's still a pretty good contract, even if his value is diminished a bit. Because if I'm a team and I see Malik as a point guard, does it affect me and affect my thought process and his value as a 2 guard? If he's going to come to Orlando, because the Lord knows they need somebody that can score. If he's going to come to Orlando, and by the way, talking about, I was going to say shooting, but if you're Orlando now, I don't know. Malik's 3-point percentage is not really where we need it. That's why Orlando wasn't interested in De'Aaron Fox when we talked to them, the media members out there who cover the team. So Malik Monk kind of got what I feel like he wanted. The results weren't there. And I don't know that it's a situation where it's be careful what you wish for, but you never know what's going to happen. I talk about that movie Bedazzled that Kyle's never seen. You say a wish, but you don't necessarily say the details of the wish. Malik Monk, not to say he wanted De'Aaron Fox out, but he wanted to start. Well, what comes with all that? Malik Monk starting, still didn't win games. Mike Brown gets fired. De'Aaron Fox gets traded. Now you're a starting point guard in the league. Your shooting suffers. You get a Zach LaVine who doesn't really help that. If it was, hey, I'll be a point guard because whoever, the Tyus Jones or whoever it is, I can be a hybrid because we have that guy too. But that's not what you got. You got a Zach LaVine who doesn't help the situation on top of already having DeMar DeRozan that doesn't help the situation. I can't even really remember the last time I saw Malik have more than 2 or 3 of those pocket passes to Domantas Sabonis that we were so accustomed to seeing. So as we talk about all these guys that are interested in seeing the future and talking about the future with the Kings, I have no clue where Malik Monk falls.
I'm reading the description for Bedazzled here, and I just got to say, kind of interested.
Hey, this weekend, you got homework.
Watch Bedazzled. It doesn't have a terrible rating on Rotten Tomatoes either. The Malik Monk part of it, I think it's interesting because my mind goes to when talking about what Malik Monk autonomy he has over his future. Does the fact that he signed the 4-year contract just last offseason make it more difficult for him to be like, I now want to take my future into my own hands and go to X, Y, or Z place?
Sure.
So even if, we talk about, and Sam Amick reported, DeRozan wants to meet with the team or Sabonis wants to meet and figure out the direction. We don't hear the same thing with Zach LaVine. And I don't know if we're going to hear the same thing with Malik Monk only because of the long-term commitments and the fact that they're not all NBA caliber players who can kind of dictate the direction of an organization. Does that make it, not that Malik Monk's opinion about it doesn't matter, but that it won't change the outcome of the fact he's probably going to be on the team next year, barring a major trade for a superstar or an all-star player?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And I don't know that it's because I'm not trying to insinuate that Malik wished for all of this, but I do know, and we do know that Malik wanted to start. And I'm not saying Malik wanting to start led to all of this, but you just don't know how things are going to be connected when that first, was it against the Spurs and they lost that game and it was a terrible game?
Yep.
We thought it was the start of something new, and unfortunately it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he was playing well at that point because he wasn't the point guard.
And even since then, he's had 3 completely different roles this season. If we're playing this out in our mind, Malik Monk went from being the backup, 6th man to start the season, to then starting, to then having to be the point guard after the De'Aaron Fox trade, to now going back to being more of a traditional 2 because DeRozan has kind of taken over some of that point guarding in the offense at times, as Brennan talked about yesterday during the roundtable. And then he also got sick and was out, and now he's back on the bench. Yeah. Right? So there's been 5
but still closes.
Yes, but still closes, which all would spin my head trying to figure all of that out. Yeah. So you're right. It's been a really interesting journey Malik Monk has been on. I just, if he's like, I want to, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. If he's like, I want to get out of here no matter what, and the offer of Malik Monk for KCP is on the table with Orlando, like was Orlando chose KCP over Malik. They probably have some buyer's remorse about that. If that same option is on the table, I don't think Sacramento is like, we will facilitate what Malik Monk wants in a way that they would for De'Aaron Fox. No.
And that's been the whole thing. Not every player has that type of power. And honestly, De'Aaron shouldn't have had that type of power. But we're not getting into that today. What we are going to get into is kind of about De'Aaron. As far as the trade, we have some numbers here from our guy, Jack, who covers the team and does a great job. Another numbers guy, so Kyle loves him. And he breaks down the returns on Zach LaVine. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Keegan Murray plays here.
Keegan scores another three-pointer. Keegan Murray.